since I made a video, maybe year or years. And the camera's pointing at me. So there's not much to look at. But the point I'm making today is this, right? That the Constitution of Ireland enshrines a specific right for the woman. What is that right, and why did Leo Varadkar try to remove the woman from the Constitution on International Women's Day, and then when he failed to do so, quickly resign? I'm going to tell you why. The Constitution of Ireland. What is the Constitution of Ireland? You'd be surprised how many people, perhaps you'd be surprised, how many people have asked and they didn't even know what the Constitution of Ireland was, let alone have read it. Teenagers, have you guys read the Constitution of Ireland? No, they haven't. They haven't read it. And I didn't read it till I was like 30 something. So in school, they're not telling us to read it. They're not telling us why we might need to read it. They're not telling us anything. So that young men don't know what a constitution even is. And they're the ones that are going to inherit the country. So if that doesn't tell you a lot, I don't know what will. But anyway, I'll proceed. The Constitution of Ireland says, and this is verbatim, or very close to verbatim, the government must endeavour to ensure, listen carefully guys, that it never be as a result of economic necessity, in other words, a lack of money, that the woman leaves the house and goes to work. Now, we're not making jokes that the woman is going to be tied to the kitchen sink or she's not allowed out of the house. That's not what's being said here. We're not saying that mommy can't work. We're saying that if daddy is working full time, he should be able to ensure that she doesn't have to. That's the point. The point is that if daddy is at work, he should be able to pay for his wife. Well, what's he going to work for? Isn't that pretty clear? It's pretty clear. The government must endeavour to ensure that it never be as a result of economic necessity that the woman leaves the house and goes to work. What's meant by economic necessity there? A lack of money. She should never have to go to work for a lack of money. Now, wiser men than me wrote that into the Constitution to protect women from evil men in government. All I have to do to conquer a country is deny the man enough money to take care of his house. All I have to do to defeat America is take gainful employment from the American. All I have to do to destroy the entire empire of China is take gainful employment away from the man of the house. All I have to do to take down the British Empire is take away gainful employment from the man. And I've made slave nations. Any place. The economic template is the same, isn't it? Oh, they have slightly different economic dynamics, don't they? Yeah. But like, I'm kind of talking about the Western world or societies that are based on our model, a similar model. Yeah. So the common good is basically the proper economic function of each household so that the proper order of the house can ensue. So like, the man is the breadwinner, the wife is the homemaker, and the child is counselled by the woman and then by the dad when he comes of age or she comes of age. So there was always that sort of dynamic, wasn't there, in the family? Like, if the family wasn't a broken home, which many have come from, that's why it's said that the government must ensure the woman never has to go to work. Why? Because if it's a broken home, the man isn't there to do that. So the government has to step in. But it has to be what? village community, we have a parliamentary democracy, and so we write our constitution and we give it to our government and we pay them to make sure that the constitution is carried out, that it's implemented. Right, that's pretty simple. So the person most in charge of that, like the most responsible person to make sure that's happening, is the president. He takes an oath under Article 25 of our Constitution that he will implement, uphold, enforce both the Constitution and the law. And the Constitution and the law can't be against each other, like the branch of this tree and the trunk of the tree can't be against each other. The law has to grow out of the tree. You know what I'm saying? Like a branch does. It has to grow out of the Constitution like a branch grows out of a tree. Cars are noisy, I can't really hear you.
It's like taking pride in 1916. By 1916, it's something that my grandparents, my grand-aunt was flag over Scotty, the big allotment. But like, to take pride in it, it's not something that I was brave enough to do. So how can we take pride in it? So how can we take responsibility for a proclamation or anything like that, Declaration of Independence, that had its heart in the right place, but yet we had no writ in it?
No.
You know what I mean?
Well, you know, of course there are loads of different underpinnings where the freedoms that we now have were as a result of a defensive action, or, you know, there's all that going on. But all I'm really focusing on today is, at least in this, where I'm addressing people and making this video, is specifically to do with gainful employment for the man.
Yeah.
Now, gainful employment is simple. Gainful means that you profit from it.
Yeah.
I mean, who goes to work to break even and then be out of their house?
Yeah, yeah.
No, but even if you were making ends meet, you might work.
Yeah.
But the whole point of gainful employment is that we don't know what's around the corner. You could get sick.
So you're only
I could get sick.
Slips away from being homeless.
Yeah, like, that's the thing. But you wouldn't even mind if you were 10 pay slips away from homeless.
I've been homeless for years.
Yeah, it's no joke.
No.
Being homeless. It's no joke. It'll wake you up right quick.
Yeah.
But the point I'm making is that gainful employment is where you can go to work, you can pay for your house, you can have enough money to take care of your wife, and a reasonable sized family, like 4 children.
Yeah.
I think we can agree on that.
Yeah.
4 children is reasonable size. Not 60 years ago there were 20 living in a small cottage.
Yeah.
I think we can manage 4. So if we were even to say 4 is an average size family, then it wouldn't be beyond the realm of reasonableness or possibility to ensure that every man is earning enough to have a wife, a wife and 4 children. That's not an unreasonable request.
Most people are waiting down to the right in nearly 40.
Yeah, they're still living in Mammy's box room or whatever, you know?
And have them on site and then that's it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, things have changed so much.
But that's actually detrimental to our country. Like, if every family's only having 1 child, it means our population is halving in the 2-3 generations.
Yeah.
Like, Ireland's population goes ba-dunk if people are only having 1 child. So that's a quick way of destroying Irish people, is to not allow them to breed.
There'll be more Cayman Irish. I don't know if there is already Cayman Irish diaspora than there is actual Irish. You know what I mean?
Well, we don't mind other nations moving in, but you know, we shouldn't be in an economic situation where we can't procreate.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Exactly.
Like, Ireland isn't a small country. All they have to do is build a few houses in some of those fields that aren't being used. I mean, it's a big enough island.
The worst thing they ever did was stop it and council orders.
Yeah. So the point I wanted to make was gainful employment is a military defence against the common good. It's very serious, because if you don't have gainful employment, you can't pay for your wife, you can't buy your house, you can't feed your children. That's the common good. So the community welfare, the welfare of Ireland, the nation's welfare, is dependent upon the individual house being looked after. And that's dependent upon the individual woman being looked after. So our wise ancestors knew that. They understood the economy, they were learned men, they were scholars. They understood the economy, the politics, the infrastructure, and what it needed to be. And so they preserved and enshrined the women as being economically protected from corrupt men in government who might attack our wages. Now, if you're in government and you are to implement the constitution that we wrote, the government are to endeavour to ensure that it never be as a result of economic necessity that a woman leaves the house and goes to work. That's still in the constitution now. Leo Varadkar just tried to have a referendum to remove Mammy from the constitution. Ireland voted against that and Leo Varadkar resigned. So ever since then I've been asking Irish women, what's the point in keeping you in the constitution if you don't know your rights? And what's the point in knowing your rights if you're not going to hold your government accountable to implementing them?
We're still kind of clinging on to the old ways, isn't it, you know?
So the point, the finishing point on this matter, if you're interested, is that if the government, whose job it is to ensure gainful employment, because that's the implied right under the enshrined right of the woman, the man, the breadwinner, has to be earning enough to make sure she doesn't have to go to work, or the government. So obviously the ideal is that the man is earning enough. It's not reasonable that the government would be paying for every woman. Of course not. They wouldn't be able to afford it, sure.
Like years ago, you couldn't work once in you couldn't have to give up work.
That was because it was the best thing for the house. So the point is that gainful minimum wage in Ireland is gainful employment. In other words, the least lawful amount that a man can earn in Ireland is gainful employment under the Constitution. So when the government come out and say minimum wage in Ireland is $12.70, they commit grand larceny. They're actually committing grand larceny, because we know that $12.70 is not gainful employment. We know that minimum wage is gainful employment, and if $12.70 is not gainful employment, it can't be minimum wage. If $12.70 is too low a number to keep your wife at home in the house, it means you have to be able to buy a house with that amount of money. Now, we're not saying you start work yesterday and buy a house tomorrow with it, but it has to be a realistic amount of money that in a realistic time frame you can accumulate a deposit for a mortgage and be granted it for a house that actually exists. That's not fair, because then there are other pressures, like a young pregnant 15-year-old woman, or even a 20-year-old woman, has a man who's willing to be with her, but he's not financially equipped to provide for her. Now you have a dynamic where she's coming under pressure to have an abortion.
And the grandparents are under pressure, puts their marriage under pressure if they do have it. There's an extra kid in the house.
So it's all family destruction. So what we have to do as Irish people is say, no, sorry, you keep committing grand larceny and you can end up in prison. Minimum wage in Ireland is not $12.70 because it's not gainful employment. Gainful employment has to be the amount facilitating the woman to stay in the house that the man owns. So the priority of the government is to give every man in Ireland gainful employment. They have to establish what the cost of living for an average size family is, and then make sure that the minimum wage is that amount of money and some. Because you have to be able to put away rainy day money, you know. But they're committing grand larceny, and nobody's doing anything about it. So we need to raise awareness on these subjects. You have to be dedicated, don't you? Have a nice day. Mind the cars. But it's our country, you know. So, you know, we have to protect each other and the children, because the children have nobody defending them. And if we don't get our government to do what we pay them to do, what hope have they? So it actually is defence of the children, you know. Have a nice day. Thanks for engaging. It's always helpful to chat. So, just going to finish this live video. Gainful employment is minimum wage in Ireland, and if $12.70 cannot be categorically stated as gainful employment, it cannot be stated as minimum wage without committing grand larceny. And that's what our government are now doing. They're committing grand larceny, the application of a false value on something that is intrinsically important to society's well-functioning and the common good, in other words. So blessings. Like and share.